I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar presented by Cornerstone OnDemand and HR Director Magazine. We've got a timely and fascinating topic to cover today, and it relates back to how technology, especially cloud-based human capital management, is transforming HR. The title of today's webinar, as you can see, is Leveraging the Machine to Transform Your Business and Bottom Line. My name is Ian Hopkins and I'm the editor on HR Director Magazine. Joining me today is someone who probably knows more about this topic than anyone else on the planet, Frank Ricciardi. I'll give everyone the rundown on Frank's background. Frank is the Senior Vice President and General Manager, Asia Pacific and Japan for Cornerstone OnDemand. Based in Hong Kong, Frank leads Cornerstone's business in the region, which includes Greater China, Southeast Asia, Australasia, India and Japan, spanning 8 offices and employing more than 230 employees in the region. Frank has called Cornerstone home for over 13 years and was previously responsible for the company's global portfolio of clients. During this time, Frank pioneered Cornerstone's market-leading client success program, which includes the innovative Client Success Framework, which is intended to ensure that both Cornerstone and its customers achieve unparalleled success in the software as a service delivery model and Cornerstone solutions. For almost 20 years, Frank has been involved in the world of HR technology and has experienced firsthand the evolution of both the HR business function and the supporting technologies. Today, Frank will share insights on key trends in big data and people analytics. Throughout today's webinar, we'll be asking some poll questions, so make sure you all participate. We'll also have a time for questions at the end of the webinar, so make sure you stick around. Also, you'll find some additional documents in the Handouts tab, so make sure you take a look at those. Without further ado, over to you, Frank.
Excellent. So consumerization, the concept of this is basically that the applications that we use in our everyday lives, like Facebook or Google or the hotel website where you book your hotel or your airline ticket, that the applications are very easy to use. And we expect actually the applications in our organizations to behave like these consumer experiences. And if they don't, we're not likely to use them. And because of cloud computing, because of mobile and consumerization, we actually have incredible amounts of data. And essentially what I'd like to talk about today is how we leverage that data, specifically people data, in our organizations. So we are, for those of you who love Star Trek, we are in the era of big data. And the question is, how are we going to leverage that data? So let's start by talking about the different types of data analytics that exist. And this is not specific to HR, this is very general. The first type of data is descriptive data. And essentially what that is exactly what it sounds like. It is data that you look at that describes what happened. And it is always looking in the past. It's data on what has already occurred. There's a second type of data, which is really diagnostic data. It's the ability to look at data to determine why something happened. And it's an incredibly important part of the equation because it's interesting to look at data that's happened in the past, but we need to do something with it. And the first thing that we really start to do is we either analyze what has happened or why it's happened, or we look to find trends. And as a result of that, we can then take it to the next level and theoretically predict what will happen next. And ultimately what we want to do is prescribe what to do about it. And so there's a very basic example that we can all relate to, that we can apply all four of these types of data analytics. So the first is weather. So let's think about weather. It rained today, or it rained yesterday. And so we would obviously, as it rains more and more over time, we would like to know, why did it rain? And what we have found is that by diagnosing the attributes of rain, that we know when a low pressure system and a high pressure system meet, it causes certain atmospheric conditions that are conducive to rain. And of course, if we know that, we can monitor when that low pressure system and high pressure system happen, and we can then predict that it will rain tomorrow because we know how the weather systems are moving. Obviously, if we think it's going to rain tomorrow, we should bring an umbrella. And so you can see that that's the very basic example. Let's take a very quick poll and see how you would describe your current use of people data in your organization. So if we can please launch that poll. And if you can please select all that apply to your organizational use of people data, we'll take a quick look at the results. Okay, why don't we go ahead and wrap up the poll?
Frank, I've got the results here. 78% generally look at historical data, which I guess is no real surprise given what you've said. 73% analyze data to look for explanation or trends. 48% look at benchmarks based on external data. And then 17% leverage data to predict the future. Do those results surprise you?
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would expect the allocation to look like. And as Ian said, we obviously all look at historical data, but there are very few of us that are actually looking at prediction and prescription. And so hopefully as we progress through this webinar, you will see how you might be able to do this. So let's just talk about what big data is. I mean, basically what big data is it is making use of incredible amounts of data that our applications that we use are collecting all the time. And as I said, by having applications in the cloud where everyone is using a single application, there is exponentially more data as a result. And of course, what we can do is apply what we call machine learning to this data, which is basically writing algorithms to mine the data, to evolve hypotheses over time, and make predictions as a result of the algorithm. And the algorithm gets smarter and smarter as you pump more data into it. And ultimately what it allows us to do is to find the answer. And there are lots of examples of this around the world. All of the examples have allowed us to tap into what we call dark data. Dark data is all of the data that exists that we actually don't leverage, and certainly not in a meaningful way. And so your organizations today likely have incredible amounts of dark data, which we would like to help you tap into. So some real life examples around predictive analytics are in our everyday lives. So for example, probably most of you have purchased something on Amazon. Amazon is actually able to predict which products you may purchase. And as a result of this, they have actually increased sales by almost 30%. One of the things they can also do is modify pricing based on your likelihood to buy at a certain price. And so they are using big data and machine learning in order to increase sales. Chase Bank, one of the largest banks in the world, is predicting mortgage risk. So they've been able to do a couple of things. They've been able to predict who is likely to default on a loan and avoid the default. They've also been able to predict who is likely to pay off a loan early, thereby cutting off the revenue from that customer. And as a result, they've boosted profits by $600 million. Schneider Electric has actually been able to leverage maintenance data to determine which of their pieces of equipment that they've sold to customers are more likely to require maintenance during certain time periods. And as a result, they've basically been able to apply maintenance before the piece of equipment breaks, and they've saved millions and millions of dollars on maintenance fees. But now we're actually able to use this in HR. So people analytics matter. 86% of CEOs are saying that they believe that they will implement people analytics as a priority in the short term, and almost half of them already have dedicated people analytics, which is good news. So I would like to ask you a quick polling question. We'll launch the poll, but I'm going to review the statements here very quickly. So which best describes your current people data capability? A is that people data resides in many source systems. They're not centralized, they're not unified. You don't have centralized access or a unified view. It makes it difficult to access, but you do use the data. The second is people data is centralized. It's easily accessible by HR and other business stakeholders. And the third is that people data is essentially not used effectively, and you need to make changes to tap into the power of your data. So only select one, please. Okay, why don't we close the poll? And Ian, I'm just assuming I won't see the results, so I'll let you give us the output.
I've got that in front of me, and 56% chose option A, so people data resides in several source systems. 17% said people data is centralized and easily accessible, and 27% said people data is not used effectively.
Also, what I would expect, having spoken to folks literally around the world, it is, and it's not necessarily that anyone's done anything wrong. It's just how technology evolves and how we invest in technology in our organization. So the fact that there is several source systems mean that we are still kind of leveraging the very process-centric technology architecture that we've implemented maybe some time ago, and we're still getting benefit out of it, but it doesn't really help our data problem. And so really thinking about technology differently in the future, and specifically thinking about cloud data and cloud technology, is really going to allow you to tap into your people data in a much more meaningful way. So it's really no longer about looking at the past and guessing about the future. It's about predicting it. And now I specifically want to talk about Cornerstone. And the reason I want to talk about Cornerstone is I want you to understand why we are able to do what we do with data. And I think it's very important to first understand that our client base is very large. We have over 3,000 clients around the world with 31 million users using the same application. Those users are in 191 countries. We have applications available in 43 languages. We have 24 offices. But the point that's most important is 31 million users in 191 countries. And that means that we have incredible amounts of data about people. The second point is that we are a unified cloud platform. We have always been and are only available in the cloud. And we span the employee lifecycle from basically hire to retire. So we have 3 talent management suites, one for recruiting that includes recruiting and onboarding and campus recruiting. We have a learning suite that includes a learning management system, Connect, which is an enterprise social networking application, collaborative learning, and we have a performance suite that includes performance management, succession management, talent mobility, compensation, and engagement. And this is what we call the Unified Talent Management Suite. It is all on a single platform. And we also have a core HR solution called Cornerstone HR, which includes a planning module, a data visualization module, a workforce management module, and benchmarking. And a couple of other solutions not relevant to this discussion. Collectively, it's HCM. But the point is that we have, as a result of having 31 million users across all of those different suites and products, we have incredible amounts of data. We have user data, we have collaboration data, we have talent data, we have organizational data. We have petabytes of data. And you may get a kick out of this. When this baby gets warmed up, it can store up to 8 photos. That's not the world we live in today. And in fact, I've talked about this topic many, many times, and I've talked about the petabytes of data we have, and someone in the audience once said to me, well, how much data is that really? And I actually didn't know the answer. And so I went to our chief technology officer and I said, Mark, one of the folks I spoke to recently wanted to know how much data we really have. And he said, well, let me get back to you so I can put it into like real context. And 2 days later, he sent me an email and he said, we have enough data to listen to your favorite 5-minute song for 2,000 years. And I thought, well, that's a lot of data. And so the question is, what do we do with this data? Well, of course, we have created a very powerful analytics suite. One is classic reporting, as you would expect, which is the ability to actually access data about what has happened in the past. All of the data elements that we capture are available. But also we have something called Cornerstone View, which is the ability to visualize the data in a very meaningful way and slice and dice it so that you can really determine why something has happened. We also have a workforce planning module, and we have something called Cornerstone Insights, which is about predicting what will happen and prescribing what to do about it. And today I'd like to show you a little bit about that in a moment, but let's just talk about how it works. So first of all, we have a unified system. We are a 100% organically developed application to span all of those process areas I described on a unified platform, which means that we capture all of that data across all of those dimensions. Then what we have is a capability that allows us to build algorithms based on a very long history of R&D in big data. We've been really focused on this for about the last 7 years. Before that, we were really focused on good reporting. For the last 7 years, we've been focused on what do we do with all of this data. And we have built a machine learning capability. We have data scientists who sit in a room and their favorite thing to do is come to work and look at this data. Anonymized, by the way, which I'll talk about in a moment. And ultimately what we can do is tell users what action to take as a result of a prediction. So what does that really look like? Well, in recruiting, how do you know what the best match is for an applicant to specific jobs and teams? Predicting success of a hire, for example. How do we know what activities really impact a new employee's onboarding, or said differently, how do we know what interventions make a new employee productive most effectively and as quickly as possible, shortening the time to productivity? We actually know what factors, social factors and collaboration factors, really produce higher performing, more highly engaged employees. We also can tell you with whom you should be connected in an organization, for example, or what learning you should take based on who you are, or what learning other people have taken who are like you. We can predict performance. We can detect which managers are going to be most effective or ineffective. We can predict what compensation criteria really incent better performance, and which people are more likely to proceed and succeed in an organization. So really what it's about is bringing this data to the user at the right place, at the right point of decision, making it actionable, allowing you to actually take your talent processes and optimize them, allowing you to simulate different scenarios to determine what an outcome might be, and allowing you to get predictions and recommendations. All of those four items together make what we call Cornerstone Insights. Some other questions that we can answer are questions around compliance. So who's most likely to be in compliance? What factors lead to non-compliance? Which employees are ready for new roles? Which career paths employees could possibly take within an organization, and how I can develop an employee to be successful in new roles? And how I can apply learning interventions to people to really drive skill building, impactful development. And even things for administrators or program managers in learning to determine how to optimize the learning offering or course catalog. There are so many ways that we can apply this. So I would like to actually give you some examples. These are real examples. So this is something called compliance guided control. And essentially what we can do is, imagine if you were, for example, a financial services organization who it was mandatory that every year your employees took an anti-money laundering course, or maybe a more generic or general example would be most organizations that are over a certain size maybe require you to take a workplace harassment course, for example. So Cornerstone, when you load that course into the system, the system will literally predict what the compliance rate will be for that course based on your user attributes. And we can also allow you to actually look at that course's compliance by organization structure. So actually on the right here, you see the organization itself, the green areas, the center area are the executives. Each layer or ring around that are the different layers of the organization. And you can see the red, the executives are very unlikely to take that course on time by the due date. And you can drill into this. So you can literally drill down into the organizational unit and down into the person. We can also allow you to look at the factors that determine risk of non-compliance. So, for example, in this case, it's looking at historic completion rate, it's looking at the size of the team, it's looking at the due date, it's looking at the time since the employee actually registered into the course, and you can see how many employees are actually at risk. The system will also allow you to simulate different factors or different criteria that will change the compliance rate. So for example, the system will allow you to say, if I make this course due on a Tuesday and not a Friday, or I make the course 30 minutes 2 30-minute courses instead of 1 hour, one single hour course, then my compliance rate will go up by 16%. And so it allows you to simulate compliance as well. The next example is employee growth. So Jackie here is currently a product manager. Her manager is David Price. Her last performance rating was 4.4. But based on Jackie's attributes and other people like Jackie, there are 16 possible positions that Jackie could succeed into next. And you can look at a calculated readiness and potential rating and plot those in a graph to see which ones she's most ready for and has the most potential for, which would be those in the upper right-hand corner, and those that are she's least likely to have potential to succeed in, and then readiness, least readiness in the lower right-hand corner. And she can actually drill into any one of those jobs, or HR as a business partner or a generalist could drill into any one of those jobs, or a manager if you want to make it available to the manager to really help Jackie plot her growth through the organization. Could actually look at, in a different way, if someone is currently an implementation consultant but would like to be a regional sales manager, you can see here that 24 people have done that in the past. It has taken those 24 people somewhere between 2 and 10 years to get to that role. And you can see the distribution of that succession, with 4 years being the most likely case. So most people have taken 4 years to get from implementation consultant to sales manager. But what you can't see on the bottom, and I cut it off by mistake, is the development actions that are recommended to move from the implementation consultant to the regional sales manager and theoretically shorten the time to succeed to that position. So the system will recommend the development actions as well. I love this one. It's a lot to look at, but it's fascinating. Basically, we have Otto here, who is an application development engineering manager. Last performance rating was 5, which is theoretically really good. There are 5 possible positions for Otto just based on who he is. And basically, it's mapping out the progression of Otto, someone like Otto, through the organization based on the most popular career paths that someone in Otto's position has taken. And what you can see is all of the different paths that he can possibly take. There are 4 levels here. The first level is the position he's in, the first dot. The second dot are the next likely positions. The third is the next likely after that, and the fourth is the next likely after that. So what you see here are the thicker the line, the more likely he is to be successful in that path. That's the most likely path for him, based on who he is, what his interests are, what people have done in the past who are like him. So this actually changes the entire dialogue between a manager or HR and an employee. It used to be, as most of you know, as an employee, you were most likely to have a next career step based on the manager you had, based on the one-on-ones with your manager who said, look, I think that you would be great in this next role. And that was probably had a high probability that you took that next role. But now what we're seeing is the ability to actually assess what are all of the options and determine what your likelihood of success is. But what's interesting is as you look at these different paths, the system can also, again, recommend the development to get to the place that you want to be given your chosen path. You can get to the same place 5 different ways, but what path are you going to choose? And so this is really empowering the employee to take control of their own career.
Frank, I'll just interrupt for a moment. Just a time check. We've got 10 more minutes to go if we want to have some time at the end for questions, just so you know.
Not a problem. Thanks, Ian. This is a great example for learning administrators and learning program managers. So what you're looking here, you're seeing here is the bigger the circle, the more popular the program, or I should say all the courses in a particular program. So you can see that leadership here is the most popular. IBM Cognos is also very, very popular, but the blue color means that it's decreasing in popularity. The red color means it's increasing in popularity. So while advanced Java is pretty popular, it's also increasing in popularity, where IBM Cognos is also similarly popular but decreasing in popularity. This really enables program managers to look at their learning offering and determining what to do to make sure that the offering is the most relevant to the organization. And this is a very basic example. I go back to Amazon. If anyone has ever purchased anything online, it's highly likely that you purchased something or have been looking at a product, and it's saying people who have purchased this product have also purchased this product, trying to upsell you basically before you even made a decision. This is very similar. Someone here has just completed a training course, and this example is actually using big data to make recommendations of next courses that the person can take. You can see on the bottom there, you may also like these courses. That's based on the attributes of the person, but also what other people who have done, who have taken the courses like the one they just finished. And this is a great example of embedded insight. So this is an example of a succession planning exercise where not only am I, for example, if I were naming my own successors, I'd be looking at my organization. The system is also recommending successors who are highly likely folks that I don't even know. And so when we look at the succession planning process, we normally name our own successors, and then it goes to HR, and we facilitate dialogue around who other possible successors might be that the succession manager didn't know. This is actually embedding that insight right into the application at the time the successors are being named, so the person can actually look at these people and determine if they would be likely fits for him or her. There are lots of business benefits to predictive and prescriptive analytics. Obviously, you get much deeper insight. You get suggestions that are based on data, not just your emotion. You can obviously make smarter decisions, and it can save us time and money. And the impact of this is quite significant. Actually, Bain & Company has done a study that says that if you're able to apply predictive analytics, you're going to get 2.5 times healthier leadership pipelines, 2 times more likely to deliver high impact recruiting, 5 times more likely to make faster decisions. And I love this, which is 30%, those who have employed predictive analytics have 30% higher returns than the S&P 500. What's next? Well, we're going to continue to advance the machine, as we say, continue to evolve all of these capabilities. We're embedding the data services themselves at the point of need where the decision is being made. We are going to be releasing benchmarking solutions and coming up with even more prescription intelligent recommendations. So with that, I'd actually like to end by saying that I think we have an incredible opportunity within our organizations today to tap into dark data, to begin to think about unifying our disparate technologies into unified cloud architectures, and really leverage the data, not just your own data, but the anonymized data of all of the other users. And again, I want to point out that it's anonymized data. The data used in these algorithms cannot be traced back to any one person or client. but the algorithms actually get their smartness from the sheer amount of data that a company like Cornerstone has in the database. And that data can be applied to your organization to help you make more effective decisions. So with that, I hope this was a productive discussion for you. I would like to turn it back over to Ian and see if there are any questions from the group.
Frank, I've got two here. One is, what if my organization does not have the technology capabilities in place today to provide the type of prescriptive and predictive insights that you described throughout the webinar?
That's an excellent question. So there's a couple of things. So first of all, we highly recommend that you look for a way to unify the data. So if it's in several systems, there's two ways, many ways, but there's two primary ways to unify the data. First, you can build a data warehouse and put a BI tool on top of it. And that could be quite costly. The maybe more effective way to get access to the data is to really think about how do I actually bring the technology that I have in place today to current, into the most modern standard, if you will. And that would be in the cloud. There's no doubt about it. So it'll be very difficult for you to get access to big data capability unless you are leveraging big data in conjunction with your own data. And because big data is not your data, it's the collective data of everyone using an application, the best way to modernize is to leverage a cloud technology, a cloud platform that has unified process support across many processes and leverages the collective anonymized data of the macro employee count across all clients. So I think if you want to get at your own data only, you can unify it in a single database and put a BI tool. But I think the probably more cost-effective and long-term solution is to really think about putting retiring your existing technologies and moving them to the cloud into a unified platform.
Thanks for that, Frank. We've got another one here. I guess it's relating to your R&D function at Cornerstone, but how does Cornerstone determine what insights to develop?
That's also a good question. There's a couple of facets to this. The first facet is what you mentioned, Ian, which is R&D. So I mentioned in the webinar that we've been thinking about this and investing in this for 7 years. If you think about the way we invest, this is a huge area of investment for us because it's the next killer app in HR. And when we invest in a couple of things. First, we invest in infrastructure. So most companies don't have the infrastructure and architecture to handle this kind of capability. You couldn't really build it yourself. And so it takes a lot of processing power and infrastructure to process the big data. The second area is, and I think more to answer your question, is when we select the insights, there's a couple of things we do. First, we ask our clients what insights are going to be most valuable. I mean, one of the things that Cornerstone is most happy about is that probably 99.9% of the feature set in our application was the request of a customer. I mean, we really listen to what is needed. We just don't build stuff and hope that people like it. So our strategy is to really engage our customers. And our customers have told us to build what we've built so far. We release many insights, many more and new insights with every release. They're a result of what our customers have been asking. But the second thing is that one of the interesting things about big data and machine learning is that by writing algorithms and putting, based on a hypothesis, hypothesis and putting the data through the algorithm, we actually also generally find new things as a result of that process that we just went through. And so when we write an algorithm and that algorithm has an output, it might be something that was completely unexpected. It might be that we all have a bias when we think about that data. And the algorithm helps us remove the bias. And so any one algorithm might yield many, many other insights, if you will, that are valid and relevant. And so we take those insights to our clients and ask what's most relevant, and we build those in priority order. So that's how we do it.
Frank, I've got another question from Louise, and she's asking who your ideal client is.
Can you repeat that, Ian? Who our ideal client is?
Yeah, I guess in terms of size or industry type, that sort of.
Yeah, this may actually all sound very big, actually, and it might be too big for a small client. It's actually not true. So Cornerstone actually does not discriminate when it comes to clients. We have clients, our 3,000 clients are across literally every industry. We have clients of every size. I mean, on our, what we call our enterprise product, our smallest client is about 100 people. And that's the same product that they're using where our largest client is 750,000 people, literally 750,000. So if you think about the solution set, to meet the needs of a client that's 100 people and meet the needs that's a different set of needs for a client that's 750,000 people, you can imagine that those needs are drastically different. But the application has been built to be incredibly configurable to handle simplicity and complexity. And that actually makes us very unique. So these principles that I've gone over today can just as easily apply to a company that's 100 people as a company of 750,000. And the beauty is that a company of 100 people normally wouldn't be able to access this kind of stuff unless they moved to an application like Cornerstone. Now, I will also just mention that we also have a separate product called Growth Edition that is for companies that are less than 100 people. And so it's really built for really, 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 really small businesses, and it's a subset of functionality. But we have clients that are 100 people on the enterprise product, and we don't discriminate by size.
We've got one other question from Kirsty, Frank, and she's asking which industries do your clients typically belong to? Is it a cross-section or are they focused in particular areas?
No, we have clients, as I just mentioned, we don't discriminate. We also don't discriminate by industry. We have clients in every industry: financial services, manufacturing, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, you name it, we probably support it. And so, the reason, you know, there's a very specific reason for that. While industry needs are unique, what we have found is that people needs generally are not. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you still recruit people. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, you still onboard those people. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you still train them. You still manage their performance. You still give them career paths. You still manage mobility. All of these things, all of these principles apply to every industry.
Fantastic. We're almost out of time, Frank, so we might leave it there. But I want to thank you for your time today. Apologies to those who had some technical issues. Hopefully we sorted those out. Frank, unless there's anything else you want to say, we'll leave it there.
No, I just want to thank everyone for their participation today. And next time I'm in Australia or New Zealand, I look forward to meeting you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Frank. Thanks, everyone, for participating. Until next time.